It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Bill Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Another week unfolding before us here, coming off a great weekend. If you're a Clemson Tiger fan, you had to enjoy what you saw from your team in the game against NC State. Now they get ready for Florida State. If you're a Gamecock fan, you got a little bit of a respite over the weekend, as did your team, and now you get ready for the Tennessee Vols, the Gamecocks' 7.5-point favorites against a Vol team that got beat up, no surprise there, by Alabama. But their quarterback apparently is okay and will be able to start against the Gamecocks.
They say he will be going, and so because of that, the line was set at 7.5. And this Tennessee team that really last year South Carolina eked the win out of when they went to Knoxville last year. It was a game you were at, and really – up until their game against Auburn, really had looked almost kind of, I would say, down in the dumps and not necessarily prepared for an SEC season. But that game kind of changed the outlook of what happens here at the end of the month of October. But, of course, as they did last week, they played Alabama, and anybody who has gone up against Alabama has not fared well. I think the Gamecocks with some renewed optimism going in after finding out last night that DJ Wanham is going to play and is expected to play per Will Muschamp on his Sunday teleconference. But this is a very important game for South Carolina when you think about the way the rest of the season can go, because if you don't win this game, it could fall apart for you in very quick in a hurry.
Well, you're sitting right there at 3-3. So you're either going to make a nice move here down the stretch of the season, get yourself into a nice bowl game, have a chance to maybe get 8 wins, maybe 9, match what you did last year, or you're right, you're going to have a very disappointing finish. I think the season already is, in the minds of Gamecock fans, disappointing because I think they expected more, and legitimately so with the team, the age of this team, what's been hyped up about this team all off season long. Can't blame the fans because they look at the videos, they listen to the coaches, they hear them talk about how much the guys have worked and how much more talented they are here and there, how much better they should be in particular positions. When it doesn't come to fruition, there's reason to be disappointed. But the season's only halfway over, 6 games left. Our poll question of the week on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, and on our Twitter at SportsTalkSC is how many more wins are left for the Gamecocks out there with 6 games to go. They're sitting at 3-3. And at this point, 41% are saying 3 more wins, which means a 500 regular season. 30% say 4 or 5 more wins. 20% say 1 or 2. And 9% have voted 6. They run the table with 6.
You left one question out. How many more games are they going to play 2 teams? The opposition and playing against themselves?
Probably every one of them, based on what we've seen so far.
Well, and the one thing I think that echoed from a lot of people we talked to last week, our various people that we bring on, from the coach and the QB, the M&M boys, and even talking to Ellis Johnson at the end of last week, is it seemed like the word you used, hype, was probably misplaced, honestly.
Yeah, maybe it was.
And the problem is, I think people were aroused by what happened at the end of last year and the bowl victory, and you don't want to draw too much from a bowl victory, as I like to say, at the end of a season. But in my mind, I think expecting them to play out their behinds on defense the way they did last year was probably something that you couldn't expect, and the offense did not take the tangible steps, at least at this point of the season, that we thought they were going to take.
Well, the key point is you've got to figure out that South Carolina still has a tremendous margin for error. And it was almost like I thought, well, they're going to struggle now, even when we saw Wanham limp off the field. Said, uh-oh. They're not going to need him against the rest of this game against Coastal, but that may cause a problem. One of the things he did last year because of his pass rush is he was one of the guys who was instrumental in causing a lot of those turnovers. Just like Miami this year, they're struggling because what? Their turnover ratio is not that good either. So South Carolina banking on being able to turn the other team over and having their receivers actually hold on to the football, that's kind of cost them.
Now, with respect to Clemson, I will sit here and say I was dead wrong about State. I thought State was going to provide a much greater test for Clemson. And much like Clemson has seen this year for most of the teams they've played, Clemson has head, shoulders, neck, chest, belt ahead of everybody inside this Atlantic Coast Conference. And I don't know if the Atlantic Coast Conference is as bad as everybody says it is, but so much about what Clemson is going to be defined by how they play these last couple of games. And I wonder, like I said before in this season, whether they're going to get the full credit enough, Corn, because of the fact that they are just so much better than the rest of their foes inside the conference.
I don't think it matters now what you think of the conference. The way things are working with Ohio State losing now, I mean, there's nobody you're going to put ahead of Clemson should Clemson win out, regardless of what you think of the ACC. They're set up perfectly. And, it wasn't so much NC State not being as good as maybe you thought. Clemson just unveiled its other side. It's a team with a split personality. They showed you that they can run it down your throat for several games. And in this particular game, they came out with the mindset of, we're going to show you we can throw it. Now, they kind of figured that NC State would line up to try to take the run away. Clemson didn't even challenge that. They threw 16 passes in the first quarter.
It was like NC State dared them to throw it, and Clemson said thanks.
And so here's the thing. I mean, now you're Dabo Swinney and you're Jeff Scott and you're Tony Elliott. And I mean, you're sitting back in your room and you're going, you know what? We can beat you with the run. We can beat you with the pass. If you're going to try to line up to take away the run, we're just going to let our big armed freshman throw it all over the field with our terrific receivers. See if you can stop that with man coverage. If you're going to play back in a zone and try and take away the pass, we're going to hit you underneath with the running game because we've got a Heisman Trophy candidate based on the odds, and ETN, who can beat you with 150, 200 yards on the ground. You come up for that. I mean, I think what they were doing against NC State was showing Notre Dame, Alabama, and who else might be coming down the road. And this is why they made the move to Trevor Lawrence and not Kelly Bryant and not stayed with him. Now they have shown that they can beat you big time with a passing game, and they've already shown they can beat you big time with a running game. It just makes them that much more difficult to prepare for if you're a DC.
And Clemson, really, in my mind, I thought that game was lost in the second play of the game. I think it was the second play from scrimmage. When I saw that NC State player standing wide open and he let that ball go through his hands, I said blowout. Because you're not only blowing a play, but you're telling Clemson, this team ain't ready. They're not ready to play us. And it looks like from soon as you saw that, it was like the Jaws movie. That shark saw Jaws and it opened up and ate all it could.
And it's really, really telling when you think about the fact that, you know, their defense, while they've been getting better, they took a lot of strides in the secondary and they made Ryan Finley a non-factor. And it also showed you just how key timing is in the secondary. A couple of those times when they played Syracuse either last year or this year, or played Texas A&M, and their corners and DBs were a split second too late and you had big chunk plays down the field, well, they were on target against NC State. They were able to make those plays that they couldn't make before, got a couple of interceptions, and really just turned the Wolfpack away.
Well, I'll turn Nick Saban and say, Dabo, the fake punt, put it in your back pocket. Don't even bother that. You're too good to try to fake punt. And you almost let NC State back in the game mentally when they stopped that fake punt.
They weren't getting back in the game. I mean, they were never in the game.
That was 24-0 when they tried that fake punt.
Yeah, they were never getting in the game. So, all right, coming up, we've got a huge night for you. Of course, the Shrine Bowl teams were announced yesterday. Congratulations to the 44 Sandlappers who will face the Tar Heels on December 15th at Gibbs Stadium at Wofford tonight. And we do have the rosters now. We will be announcing at 6:30 the rosters for the Touchstone Energy Bowl on that same day, December 15th. That'll be a 12:30 kickoff. It'll be at Coastal Carolina Stadium. And we'll have the two head coaches joining us as well tonight at 7:06 to talk about the players that they have selected. So you'll have that first coming up tonight here on Sports Talk Plus. Much more on Clemson and South Carolina. We'll take your calls. Zach Willis, 1st and 10 as well in hour number 2. Back in just a moment.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Welcome back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. The one thing that the Clemson-NC State game brought back is the return of Salty Dabo. You know, we haven't heard from Salty Dabo in quite a while, and of course, as you remember the situation last year at NC State, there was the situation of the alleged laptop that was alleged from Dave Doran's side to Clemson's side. We found out later on that it was just somebody from Clemson's social media team looking to try and post something on their social media page. But let's just say Clemson has found a way of retaliation, or they did during the game. There was a play card involving a laptop basically picture and a little clip art there of a laptop used as part of the Clemson play sheets. And here's Dabo's answer as to why that was the case there at the last part of the game.
There was a play card on the sideline that had a laptop, an image of it.
That was the ultimate troll, wasn't it? Isn't that what y'all call that? That was a troll. Isn't that what you call it? I was hoping y'all might notice that. Yeah, that was the coaches. I think they wanted to have a little fun with that. I said, well, hey, if you earn it, put it up there. So I don't think you saw it till the fourth quarter. So that was kind of that was a troll. That's
Dabo being the one thing I'll say about Dabo, he's genuine. He's a genuine guy. I didn't even think he was almost he found that a little cheeky, which I liked. It brought a little bit of again. It was what I was saying earlier in the week. There's a little bad blood between these two teams, and I like that. That's healthy.
Look, they've had a heated rivalry for years.
Yeah,
and like they said in the pregame prayer, these are two institutions cut from the same cloth. You know, they were formed for the same reason in their respective states, so they have a long DNA history between each other, and their competition has been great over the years. I mean, they're competitive with one another in every major sport, and he took exception. I was in the press room last year when a North Carolina writer asked him the question. He knew nothing about it, and he said that Dave Doran had made an issue of the fact that there was a computer open on Clemson's sideline. He brought it up in his post-game last year, and Dabo was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And that's when Tim Beret, who was still working at the time, and still is, by the way, stepped up and said, yeah, it's one of our graphic people. It's one of our statistical people. It works for us.
That's very bad, Tim Beret, by the way.
So anyway, that kind of got it started. And they hadn't forgotten that, because that was just Dave Doran just being a little bit nitpicky there and trying to find a reason why he can't beat Clemson. Well, didn't have to look hard for many reasons. He was very humbled after the game. You were there for his post-game.
I mean, I'd never seen a coach look that just sullen and, completely defeated. I mean, that was the perfect way to describe it. He wanted no part of that post-game interview. He sat there, talked for 3 minutes, and really didn't give much of anything other than full credit to Clemson. And even just talking to people connected with NC State, they knew very, very early on that they had no chance with the way that the kind of the pregame hype had talked about. We talked about the stuff that Doran had said that would kind of gotten misconstrued by some Clemson people. And Clemson took that to heart. A lot of the guys after the game felt that they were disrespected, and whatever ammo it gave them that little extra oomph to blow out the Wolfpack.
All right, some important notes to hit, and then we're going to get to some phone calls, but these are all big notes. Limestone fired their coach today, Coach Tony Ayurelli. Not even through a full season, dismissed after a 0-8 start, 0-5 in the SAC.
Brutal.
And they have promoted Brian Turk, who used to be at USC as a grad assistant. He'll take over as the interim head coach for the rest of the season. He is we met with Coach during the preseason, very nice man, and he was very optimistic about things, but it just did not work out for him there. Meantime, USC at Ole Miss will be a noon kickoff down in Oxford a week from Saturday, and Louisville at Clemson. Oh, the beloved noon kickoff at Clemson.
Big fan.
On the same day.
Well, remember, because it's at Ole Miss, is actually there at 11 a.m.
11 a.m.
kickoff.
I love the 11 a.m. Central Time kickoff. Big fan.
ACC players of the week include Clemson offensive tackle Mitch Hyatt, and he gets the offensive lineman of the week. Tiger quarterback Trevor Lawrence gets the rookie of the week. The FCS top 25, Wofford moves up 3 spots to number 9. North Dakota State is 1. Kennesaw State is 2. And James Madison is 3. Furman kicker Grayson Atkins, despite the loss, had a great day personally for the Paladins. He had 4 field goals, 3 of over 50 yards, punted at 46 yards per punt. So he's the SoCon Specialist of the Week and the National Special Teams Player of the Week by Stats. So quite an honor for him. And the let's see, the AP preseason basketball poll is out. Clemson, number 22 to start out. Kansas, how can you make Kansas number 1 knowing how much they've cheated?
Because they want to set them up on top so they can be knocked off.
Kansas 1, Kentucky 2, Gonzaga 3, Puke 4, Virginia 5. Tennessee way up there at 6 now. Nevada at 7, North Carolina 8, Villanova 9, and Michigan State 10.
How about the Fighting Musselmans up there in number 7?
Auburn's 11, and Virginia Tech is 15, Syracuse 16, Florida State 17, Mississippi State is 18, LSU is 23. And there was one more thing I wanted to mention. Oh, yeah. Big story today by Dennis Dodd, CBSSports.com, about a trial out in California. Very long story. The bottom line here is that the defendants in this case are trying to get more from their scholarships than what the scholarships are providing: room, board, books, tuition, cost of attendance. If they were to win this case, according to the experts that he talked to, this will lead to a complete realignment again of conferences, and you'll have the pay-for-play conferences and the academic conferences. That's what college sports will become. You'll have those
I have
schools
no problem with that.
Coming together in a coalition, and they'll be the ones that will pay the athletes, and the others will be the ones. And that's going to mean the end of the ACC, probably will mean the expansion of the SEC, because they don't have academics in the SEC, as we well know. Vanderbilt will probably go to the ACC for academics. Clemson and Florida State will go to the SEC. You know, all those big money programs will get together in a coalition of a league and pay the guys.
So Notre Dame,
if this goes, and one guy rules, this is not a jury trial. There's a judge who will rule on this. Same guy that ruled in the O'Bannon case. And how'd that turn out for the NCAA?
So,
Didn't go well.
That means that the only private schools you would think that even had a chance would be Notre Dame and Stanford.
Perhaps.
Probably.
Do you want to mention the Kelly Bryant update as well?
Well, he went to Arkansas, and he's going to visit Missouri this week. That was reported by Matt Connolly in the State. And I did talk to somebody out in Arkansas yesterday who had talked to Bryant, and he said he had a great time at Arkansas, felt really at home, real comfortable with everything. Of course, the relationship with Chad Morris, big for him there as well. I would think he's going to end up at Arkansas. I just think the feeling of being with Chad Morris, knowing his offense, the need for a quarterback is huge at Arkansas. And it's far enough away to get away from his history here.
The only pull with Missouri would be, again, almost a guarantee to start there. I think the offense, similar fit like it would be at Arkansas. I think you maybe have a little better chance for success immediately at Missouri than you do at Arkansas. Probably better skill position players around them. But, yeah, that Morris pull is going to be hard to beat. And the fact is, I almost feel more confident in Arkansas's recruiting abilities than I do at Missouri's right now. They're going through a lot of innovations. There's going to be a lot of warts that you really can't hide at Missouri.
I think Chad Morris is going to get it going at Arkansas. He is, I mean, he's going to attract – he's a one-school state. So anybody that's good, and he's already showing that, anybody that's good in Arkansas is going to go to Arkansas for the most part. And who wouldn't on an offensive side want to play quarterback, receiver for Chad Morris, knowing what he can do with an offense?
And of course, Morris has a lot of design runs in his offense with the passing. And the fact that Morris has such a rapport with his brethren in the high school ranks in Texas, he ought to be able to recruit.
That's the big situation here for Arkansas. They were not getting a lot of the big talent out of North Texas, the Dallas area. They're going to need to reopen some of those bridges and that were burned by the previous staffs.
I can't believe we talked the whole half hour, but I blame that on Will. So when we come back, the rosters.
You want to go back and do words per minute there, Palio?
Rosters for the Touchstone Energy Bowl. And then we'll get to your phone calls and we'll have recruiting. Of course, Clemson got a commitment over the weekend. We'll talk about that and more.
Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. It is now time for us to reveal the North and South rosters for the 2018 Touchstone Energy Bowl, which will be played December 15th on the campus of Coastal Carolina University. It will serve as part of our high school report, which is brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. With fave rates from Farm Bureau Insurance, you get all your favorite things like competitive rates, local agents, and great claim service for all your auto, home, and life insurance needs. Get a no-obligation quote today at favrates.com. With the North roster, Philbert.
Here we go with the guy selected for the North team, Jalen Gear and Xavier Nance out of Belton Honeypath. Storm Duck Out of Boiling Springs, Brendan Taylor from Broome, Ben Henson from Burns. From Camden, Jason Harris and Javaris Holiday. I wonder if Javaris is related to who was the great player Holiday out of Camden, played for the Packers? Vonnie Holiday.
Vonnie Holiday.
I wonder if they are related. Maybe someone in Camden can tell us. Dalen Robinson from Central, Jalen Smith of Chapman, Hezekiah Massey from Clover, DeIvion Donald from Dixie, Gabe Thompson and Zach Hillstock from Dorman, Dalen Littlejohn and Hunter Bullock from Gaffney, Dallas Corbett and Joshua Doctor from Gray Collegiate. To my knowledge, could be wrong, I think it's the first selectees to the Touchstone Energy Bowl from Gray Collegiate. Don't hold me to it, but I think. Maybe they can let us know on that. Stephon Stokes from Greenville, Kyle Schneider from Greer, Jamario James, Hunter Connor Tyler, Jaquez Lucas of Lamar, Jalen Tata from Lancaster. Do not hold all of these pronunciations against us. T-A-T-A-H. I would say Tata. Brendan Killiff from Malden and Jalen Anderson from Malden. From Newberry, Kobe Sly. From Palmetto, Chase Fredge. Braden Gravely from Pickens. Naril Gaither from Rock Hill. From Saluda, C.J. Boscott and Raekwon Hartley. From Seneca, Jeremiah Mackey. From South Point, Joe Irvin. From Spartanburg, Jalen Gerdner and Mo Wedman. From Spring Valley, Maximus Shropshire. Gotta love that name. From St. Joseph's Catholic, Jacob Johanning. From Sumter, Eric Watts. From T.L. Hanna, Devontae Jones. Lewis Macbeth from Union County. Patrick Nations from Walhalla. Elijah Robinson from Keenan. Keegan Halloran from Woodruff. Any relation to the money coach?
I was wondering myself.
I don't think so. And Tyrell Jackson of Wren and Lane Towery from York. That is the North squad. Now, they do not have positions on our sheet here. Does yours have positions?
Do not.
Yeah, we don't have positions. But we do have the names and the schools and the heights and the weights. Here is your South team.
From Bamberg Earhart, A.J. Williams, Rashad Maxwell from Baptist Hill, Ty Frazier from Barnwell, Trey Morrison from Berkeley. From Bethune-Bowman Middle, it's Braxton Wedgeworth, Reed Charpia from Brooklyn Casey, Stephen White from Burke. Carver's Bay's Janaz Sumter, also from Chapin, James Wells. Colleton County High School's Lane West makes the South team. Joshua Simon from Crestwood. 2 players from Dillon, Corian Wright and Khalil Bethay. Myrell Michael from Dreer, Gage Zirk and Jordan Springs from Dutch Fork. Bruce Benjamin from Fort Dorchester. Dalmont Gordine from Garrett Academy of Technology. Darius Bell and Jacob Burgess from Gilbert. L.J. Stanley of Goose Creek. Tyon Evans from Hartsville. Darius Williams from Hemingway. Tereus Drayton from James Island. Malik Richardson from Lakewood, Gabe Long from May River, 2 from Myrtle Beach, Marcus Grissett and J.P. Favorite, Kari Collier and Chris Torres from North Augusta, George Storm from Pelion, Kenny Solomon from Sacristy, Michael Mason from South Florence, Mario Anderson from Stratford, Strom Thurman's Charles McCoy makes the South team, Jonathan Bennett and Cole Phillips from Somerville, Tyler Sumter from Timberland, Trey Davis of Waccamaw, 2 from Wando, Andrew Weil and Jalen Edwards, Terrence Frazier from West Ashley, Jaheim Hazel from Whale Branch, and Daniel Foster from Wilson round out the South roster for the 2018 Touchstone Energy Bowl.
And the coaches, of course, Don Frost will be coaching the North squad as the head coach, and Dwayne Garrett will be coaching the South squad. And, you know, one thing I noticed here as we were going over the names, I love looking at the names. So you've got Storm Duck on the North and George Storm on the South. So if Storm Duck married George Storm, he'd be Storm Storm. Would he not? I'm just saying. Unless he refused to take the name.
I'm not.
Or Duck Storm.
I'm not going to ride.
He's already Duck Storm.
I'm not going to ride that. I'm not going to ride that Storm.
Storm Duck. How about Daffy Duck?
Congratulations to all these guys.
Daffy Dean.
Now, keep in mind, both the Shrine Bowl rosters and these rosters are subject to change because of injury. Of course, they still have games to play. The good thing is, unlike in North Carolina, we're not going to have championship game weekend conflicts. The North Carolina Shrine Bowl roster stands to change a lot because they're going to have championship weekend the same weekend of these All-Star games. So some of their players are going to have to play with their teams.
I thought you were going to say, unlike North Carolina, they actually give out real degrees to colleges in South Carolina.
Well, that is true. It goes without saying.
But I mean, historically,
I'm learning.
Historically, that's been the difference, though, hasn't it? One of them, North Carolina.
Well, for many years that was the case, and then they rescheduled everything so that they would be free for the Shrine Bowl weekend. And yeah, South Carolina had an advantage in the Shrine Bowl for many years because of that. Like Todd Ellis didn't play in the Shrine Bowl because Page High School was playing in the state championship game, as I recall, back in like 1985, 86, whatever it was. Okay, let's get a couple of calls in. We appreciate those of you who have been holding. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com, on Twitter @SportsTalkSC. And we will go to Hank in Columbia. First call of the week. Howdy, Hank. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Corn. How's everything?
We're great. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to answer your question. You were asking how many more wins that South Carolina would face.
Yeah.
Or potentially get. And I guess my thing would be, I think 4 for sure, and maybe 5. I think Tennessee maybe get that. Ole Miss and seem like they all look like a great team when they play somebody that's a Division II squad. It seems like every time they play a D1 team, the offense goes in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they didn't score a bunch of points on Saturday against Auburn, which surprised me. But Tiamu, he had a big game. He is dangerous. He just couldn't get him in the end zone. They had to settle for field goals. They had opportunities early, but had to settle.
That guy scares me.
And the game got away from him.
Scares me against South Carolina secondary.
Plus, he has.
But I don't mind that because we kind of see we can. It kind of reminds me of a lock. If you can get him down there, you can hold him to field goals. South Carolina's been pretty good at making people kick field goals this year.
Agreed, but they've got to score themselves. It's time for South Carolina's offense to blow up Saturday night against Tennessee.
Is it?
It is. Is it not? It is time for them to go out and put 45, 50 points on an SEC team.
I don't know if they can do that.
And put their boot on their throats, to steal a line from Larry Munson.
I just don't know if they can do that. I don't know if they're capable of doing that.
It's time. It's time to do it.
But we haven't seen it.
Well, I don't know if it's capable, but I don't think it's in their DNA to do it.
Also,
South Carolina has historically been better when they run the football and run clock, making the play action more effective. And that's the way they've won before. And, of course, they're going to have to create some turnovers, something they haven't been doing.
If they win this game against Tennessee, it's going to be tooth and nail.
Oh, they'll beat Tennessee.
If
they're favored by 7.5, I would jump all over that. I would lay the 7.5 tomorrow.
I have the same fear that Corn has, or that the Pro has, rather. I just feel like South Carolina looks in the mirror and sees a ghost.
The ghost of what?
The ghost of offenses past. I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It is time for them to come out and cut it loose.
They need to exercise some demons on Halloween Eve.
You've had 2 weeks. Okay, let's see the sped up offense. Let's see you get up there and snap the ball every 7 or 8 seconds, like you talked about in the preseason.
They can't do that because they're not getting first downs.
That's the idea. I mean, go out and execute and get first downs.
3 words: run the football. Even you saw Muschamp said that in the conference call. We got to be more stubborn with the run. What I've been saying.
All right, back in a moment.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
I heard a little birdie told me, Corny, about the uniforms for South Carolina this week.
Are you going to wear any?
Well, I know how much you love the fashion report.
Bring it.
A little birdie told me, someone who would know, that it's going to be a blackout this weekend. Black on black on black.
Mm-hmm. They've done that before with Tennessee. And Tennessee will be in orange, so it's going to be the Halloween field.
Oh, yeah, well, the pumpkin and the
this person who talked to me could not speak on wanted to speak on a condition of anonymity, if I could speak. He said they didn't want to do it against Chattanooga because who cares about Chattanooga? It's probably going to be a noon game, and so it's probably their only chance to do black on black on black. So figured why not with the night game, and also the opponent being what it is with Tennessee.
Absolutely,
be very picturesque for the I'm sure raucous Halloween Eve crowd.
Well, I would imagine they should have 75,000 plus because, first of all, it's homecoming.
Yes.
Number two, it's at night.
Yes.
Number three, it is Tennessee. You're not so big, South Carolina, that you don't enjoy the opportunity to beat Tennessee whenever you can.
The crowd for A&M was a lot better than the crowd against Missouri. I was very impressed. Now, I don't know how much of that was A&M fans, but there was a significant uptick in the fan base there for that. I think a lot of people were turned off by the noon kick against Missouri. That's why we didn't see a lot of people there for that. I expect a raucous and I would say almost wild crowd.
They should be. They absolutely should be.
It's your last SEC home game.
Yeah. And a chance to get an SEC win.
But you don't want any ghosts in there.
And it is Tennessee.
Especially ghosts that boo. They go boo.
Oh.
All right. Can we get back to something interesting?
Boo.
Let's go to Glenn.
You said interesting.
In North Charleston. With all due respect, we give it to you, Glenn. Hello, Glenn.
How you doing, Mr. Corn and Company?
We're good.
Hey, look here. It is Halloween. We're in for a wild ride. You don't know what to expect, but I expect Carolina to come out victorious because we're the stronger team. Tennessee may be drunk from Alabama's shellacking.
I would think so. I would think the fact that South Carolina's had 2 weeks, they are at home. Tennessee just got drugged up and down the field.
Yeah,
that's the kind of game that beats you twice.
Alabama. Yeah, I mean they were down 28-0 in the first quarter.
And not only that, you got a chilly rain that might be.
Did I just say drugged?
You might have a chilly rain.
Probably should have said dragged.
What about high school football Friday night? If we don't make up these games, all right, there's a chilly rain in the forecast for Friday, locally and statewide. Okay, how's that going to affect the high school outlook?
They're going to play. They're going to play.
Think?
Yeah, don't worry about it. They're going to play. It's not going to be that bad. Is there another hurricane? I think the hurricane's on the West Coast this time.
Yeah,
pound Mexico.
Yeah.
But not really. It's coming up from the Texas coming up our way. So Hurricane Will is getting ready to hit.
They named one Will?
6 or so.
They named a hurricane after you?
That's news to me.
Yeah. I don't think you have anything to worry about. Make your plans.
I think it's Hurricane Willa is what it's called.
Willa. There is Willa. Yeah.
Western Mexico.
But anyway, I was thinking also you got, if they don't win this one, it'll be very interesting to go to bowl. Because Florida and Clemson, and not only that, is that November 10th with Florida? Would that be
November 10th, they go to Florida. Next week, they go to Ole Miss, then Florida,
then Tennessee,
then home to Chattanooga, and then Clemson.
And then the potential makeup game.
10th is the
and then December 1.
Of the United States Marine Corps.
Yes.
You know that?
Yes.
And they might wear camouflage that night, would you think?
Hey, Glenn. Because of your great questions tonight, we have nominated you, and by acclamation, we have selected you to be our contestant in our Terminex Best or Pest. Do you accept the challenge?
Sure.
All right, stand by.
It's time for the Terminex Best Fan or Pest Fan of the Week. For over 70 years, Terminex has helped Carolina and Clemson fans protect what they love about living in the South, from football Saturdays to Sunday brunch.
All right.
I say he's the best, but you guys think he's the best. So I disagree. I think he's the best.
Well, we'll see how good his trivia is here.
All right, you ready? Glenn, I've got 3 questions for you.
Oh, okay.
All having to do with Clemson's win over NC State. Hope you were paying attention. You ready?
I didn't watch the game.
Okay, very good. You're qualified. Travis Etienne became the first Clemson running back to do what in Saturday's win? Got an answer? Bang.
Is it multiple choice?
No. There's one answer.
Uh-oh. Touchdown.
All right, keep going.
How many?
You're getting close.
I'd say 3.
Yes.
But what about those 3? What's the history part?
Now, you know I'm not into Clemson history.
He's the first Clemson running back to score 3 touchdowns in 3 consecutive games.
How about that?
Number 2. This will be easy. Okay, I made this one easy. Trevor Lawrence, you heard of him? He passed for 308 yards. How many 300-yard passing games does he have in his Clemson career?
3 other games that I'm aware of.
Now, how many 300-yard passing games does he have in his Clemson career?
I would say 3 other games.
Oh, 3 other. No, that was his first. Told you it was easy.
Oh.
Number 3. Nobody will get this because I think I'm the only person to look it up.
Uh-oh.
I mentioned this in our – if you read my story after the game, you'll get this. Clemson allowed a third-quarter touchdown. How many consecutive true offensive possessions? By that, I mean not just taking a knee to end a half. How many true consecutive offensive possessions did the Clemson defense not allow a touchdown before that one? Take a guess.
I would say Alabama game.
He wants a number of
How many
drives.
consecutive possessions going back to the Syracuse game did Clemson deny a touchdown until that third quarter touchdown by NC State?
Oh.
No, it's not not 0. It was 30. But thank you, Glenn, for your efforts tonight. You received absolutely nothing. But we thank you for being our Terminex pest. You have to be considered as the Terminex pest.
Probably the worst showing we've had since we started that promotion.
We've had 1 hat trick.
Hey, don't blame us. Blame the contestant. It's his fault.
That's
if
the record.
stinks.
2 hat tricks.
If the segment stinks, it's because of the contestant, not because of the host.
I didn't say the segment stinks. I said the performance
by the contestant.
Was your opinion?
That's why he's the pest, because he knew none of the answers. All right, let me jump into recruiting here very quickly as we approach the top of the hour. Try and get in what we can get in. Offensive lineman Walker Parks, 6'5", 250, committed to Clemson for the 2020 class after visiting on Saturday. He had camped at Clemson last summer, picked up an offer from the Tigers then. He also had offers from Kentucky, Louisville, Vanderbilt, Purdue, Northwestern, and others. Offensive lineman Will Putnam of Tampa, who took an official to Florida State over the weekend, told War Chant he'll visit Clemson officially November 17th. He's also taken an official to Auburn. Greenville High tight end offensive lineman Jimmy Frisch was offered last week by Nebraska. He also has Purdue, UConn, and Coastal offers and others. He was at Clemson Saturday. 2020 quarterback DJ Ukulele of Bellflower, California, did not make it to Clemson, missed the plane by just moments. He does plan to come back in for the Duke game, going to Auburn in 2 weeks for the Texas A&M game. 2020 defensive back Luke Hill of Washington, D.C. came into Clemson on Saturday. He's been close on a announcement on a commitment with Clemson very high up on his list. And defensive lineman Cooper Dawson of Hanahan was named to the Shrine Bowl despite missing the season with a torn ACL. He goes to the doctor October 31st and hopes to be cleared to be able to play in the game. Syracuse is now talking to him about a possible offer as a defensive lineman. Top of the hour, we'll be back.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
And welcome back into Sports Talk, everybody. South Carolina Radio Network here on a very busy Monday night. Been talking a lot about this past weekend with Clemson's win over NC State and looking ahead to the games this coming weekend, Clemson, Florida State, and USC, Tennessee. More on that coming up. We'll have First and 10 with Zach Willis coming your way here in just a few minutes. We gave you the rosters for the Touchstone Energy Bowl just a little while ago, and let's welcome in the head coach of the North team for this year's game, Coach Don Frost out of Christchurch. Coach, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well, Phil. How are you?
We are doing great. It's wonderful having you with us, and I know that you and your coaching staff are relieved to have this day behind you because, you know, it's got to be mind-bending to go through the state and pick out the best players that you can to represent your part of the state.
We've met every Thursday, I think, since August, and we've watched a lot of film. And to get a representation from every region of every classification in the state was tough.
Yeah, what a lot of people don't realize is you got to do exactly what you've got to do, and that means sometimes a player who might be worthy of selection can't be picked because there's just not a spot for him because maybe you needed a player at a particular position, and thus somebody who might have been worthy is left behind.
That is correct. That is correct.
What do you like overall about your squad? What were you guys looking to put together as you were selecting your roster?
Well, we talked about, you know, the offense we wanted to run. Of course, we're limited on the defense. But, you know, we just kind of went across the board and said that, you know, we need speed, we need size, strength. And, you know, we went to all combines. Didn't get to the one down in Lower State, but we went to the other ones. And, you know, we just tried to see who was available. You know, Shrine gets to pick first, and that takes 44 away right there. And so we just had to do the best job we could do based on film.
Coach, who are you most excited about among this roster?
Oh, there's a bunch of them. I'm telling you, really and truly. I think the quarterback from Woodruff, Halligan, I think he is a unbelievable athlete. I believe there's a young man at St. Joe's that is Jacob Johanning. that is about 6'2", 255, extremely athletic young man. And but there are a bunch of kids on here. You know, we're anxious to see. We got Dallas Corbett from Gray Collegiate, 6'7", 250, and Eric Watts from Sumter, who's 6'7", 230 at defensive ends.
Wow.
So, you know, we're really looking forward to seeing how they gel together as a team.
Let's welcome in Coach Dwayne Garrick of Barnwell, who will be the head coach of the South squad, and we thank him for joining us. I'm sure both of you are just coming off the practice field not too many minutes ago, so I know you're already worn out, and we're going to wear you out just a little bit more. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Phil?
Terrific. Thank you for joining us. We were just talking with Coach Frost about the overview of his team. What about the roster that you and your staff have put together?
We're excited about, the guys we picked. It's probably the toughest part about the whole thing is what we just did as far as picking the players. But, we feel good about the athleticism and the size up front offensively. And, the guys can run around on defense. And, we're looking forward to the game.
So offensively, what are you looking to do? And talk about your quarterbacks and the strengths that they will bring to your offense.
We're going to be, really stretched like everybody else is going to be. We have a little tight end set in there. We like the Springs kid, tight end from Dutch Fork.
Mm-hmm.
And Juju Williams from Hemingway. We like him both as a defensive lineman and as tight end. But, I feel we picked some dynamic players. The quarterback that we picked from Somerville is a big guy. And, runs the ball well, Jonathan Bennett. We're also excited about Reed Sharpie. I mean, we feel like he's a guy that can make some plays with his feet when they're not necessarily there. So I felt like we did a good job picking those two quarterbacks and, feel good about what we've done offensively.
Coach Garrick, you can take this as well as Coach Frost, but just defensively, I know that the rules kind of limit you on what you can do as far as that goes, but how do you at least present the defenses on both of these sides in order to not only showcase the talent of what you guys have on the sides, but also to make it fair for those on the offensive side?
Well, I think it is an offensive game going into the All-Star game, and we're all a little bit limited on what we can and can't do. But we feel like we're athletic at every position. We picked a lot of defensive backs just from the standpoint that we knew we were going to have to, face a spread type of offense. And like our linebackers, we've got some guys we feel like can run, and we're pretty athletic up front. So that's kind of where we stand.
Coach Frost, your thoughts?
Like I said, defensively, we're pretty much locked into what we can do. But we're excited about having the size and the quickness and the speed that we've got, and we're hoping that we're able to go out there and give them a good game.
For both coaches, when you look and peruse over the talent around the state, what was more difficult to come into a conclusion? Finding the right lineman you wanted on both sides of the football, or the back seven on defense and the skill players on offense?
Well, I think, speaking from our standpoint, skill guys, without a doubt. There's a lot of good linemen out there, too, but our skill guys are out there in abundance, and I'm talking about really good ones. And so from our standpoint, it was tougher to pick the right skill guys because you got guys that are punt return guys, you got guys that are kick return guys, you got, guys that play a little bit on both sides of the ball, you got guys that made plays on both sides of the ball. So it was definitely tougher for us. Trying to find the right skill guys, and it was the offensive and defensive linemen.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think that, finding the skill guys was probably the most important thing because what you're trying to do, and again, there's some really, really good skill guys that didn't make it. They're just unbelievable. But we had to pick who we felt like would fit in with what we're doing and try to get everything set up where we can score. And also on defense, I think you got to have skilled guys there too in secondary. That you got to have that to be able to come up and help on the run or cover the pass.
Coach Frost, I know when you have the right people, you love to throw it all over the lot. Will that be your approach offensively in this game?
I think we'll throw and run the ball about 60-40, probably somewhere in there. We'll
Mm-hmm.
see.
Mm-hmm.
You know, basically we'll go into the game, and I'm sure Coach Garrett said the same thing. You kind of got to fill each other out and see what we're going to do first.
Dwayne, how about you? I know these games are set up for offense. They limit what you can do on defense, but you want to kind of light up the scoreboard through the air, or are you going to be a little bit more I was a little surprised with Coach's answer that he's going to be a little bit more closer to balance than I would think that he would try and do.
You know, I think we picked, you know, seven, maybe even 8 wide outs. So, yeah, I think it's going to be, you know, for us, it's probably going to be a little more 60-40, 70-30, probably, you know, throwing the ball. But we got a tight end there, too. I mean, we're kind of, what we want to do is going to be tight end oriented. So, you know, balance is not necessarily the right word, because a lot of times we've got those skilled guys. Balance means give it to them. So, but I think we're going to have to, you know, got to establish the run game a little bit, too.
Yeah.
We'll be a little more pass heavy, I think.
We thank both of you for joining us tonight. Congratulations on getting your teams together. Now you got to keep them healthy and keep your own teams healthy, because you still have some more work to do this season. So best of luck the rest of the way. And we look forward to seeing you guys in the postseason somewhere. And then, of course, in Myrtle Beach and over at Coastal Carolina for the big game on December 15th. We thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Take care.
Yes, sir. Thank you very
Of
much.
course, you got to keep everybody happy with the playing time too.
Well, you have to play.
Yeah,
everybody has to play.
I understand.
And the rules.
That's the toughest part about all of it, is making sure everybody gets their time.
And defense, you have to line up in basically a 5-2. Usually it's a 5-2 with kind of a floater there at defensive end.
And you can't blitz, right?
No blitzing. And it's tough on offense to put a good coordinated offense together in only 10 practices, which is all you get. Makes it tough sometimes. Back in a moment.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Along with Phil Kornblue, Professor Tom Hayes, yours truly, Will Polancic, here with you as we continue on Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. And it is that time of the week. First of the week, 1st and 10, Zach Willis will not only go over what happened between Clemson and State, look ahead to Florida State, and also get you ready for the Gamecocks in Tennessee. Corn.
Zach, good to have you with us. And I said earlier in the show that I thought Clemson was sort of sending a message to the other elite that they will be dealing with in the postseason, that you try and stack the box against us, we can beat you through the air. Do you think that considering they came out and just did not even try to test the running game against NC State, they threw 16 passes in the first quarter. Do you really think that they thought they couldn't run it against State, or do you think they came out to show everybody that they can throw it against State or perhaps anybody they face?
Well, honestly, I think if they were taking what they were given, and obviously the very first drive they had a couple pretty good runs. And I think what they were trying to tell people in that first series was that quarterback they've got now in Lawrence can run the football. Because he had a couple of pretty decent runs on keeping, the zone read.
Mm-hmm.
And then they basically, NC State wanted to ride or die pack in the box, and they died on big plays because Clemson burned them. They wanted to make Lawrence feed them, and he did it. He delivered in grand fashion, I might add. So I don't know so much as sending a message. Football coaches, pretty much really great ones, really are in the moment. They respect their opponent. The only game they're thinking about is that game. And then maybe at the end, when they've got it under control, you may send a message there. But early in the game, like right there, they want to get control of that game and knock NC State out. And that's exactly what they did with some really good throws, a really big plays, and just great execution there, intermediate and down the field pass game.
Absolutely. He was a little bit off on his deep balls early, maybe a little bit too hyped, but his throws from the left hash to the field or the right hash to the field, depending on where the ball was placed, I mean, insanely precision to the nth degree for a freshman. I mean, we were watching, Will and I were there, and the angle that we had, especially when the Tigers were moving away from us, you could just see him throwing the ball. The receiver is still in his route, and the ball is right where it's supposed to be when he breaks that route.
So this guy is special, and we started last spring talking about the flashes that you see and the kind of velocity he can put on the ball, and also the timing, where we call it spinning the ball, where, it kind of hangs in the air and gets there just as the receiver turns. It's passes that are impossible to defend on the college level, and in some cases NFL. He has an indefensible arm. He's a John Elway type talent. Now, will he get to that point? Nobody knows that. We can't predict that. But the one thing for sure, this kid is as talented as we've seen in a very long time, maybe ever in a Clemson uniform when it comes to throwing the football.
To Corn's point earlier, and this was something that we found out when talking to Jeff Scott after the game, he said somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 11 of those RPOs, which were run pass options, 10 or 11 of those were initially called runs and checked into passes, and kind of speaking to where Corn was earlier. Now knowing that, Zach, how much of this past week was kind of a vindication for this coaching staff, which I don't want to say they were vilified, but there were some people who looked at them kind of funny when they made the choice to go to Lawrence instead of Bryant, and I think that we're seeing now why.
So I think that's exactly. I think you nailed it. Not only is he talented, but he understands the game at an extremely high level for a guy his age. And if there's any vindication, if any such thing truly exists for a coach, which I kind of doubt, ultimately we're all going to get it one way or the other from somebody. But, yeah, they were right on point. I mean, they see these guys every day in practice. They see them in the weight room. They see them everywhere. Study hall, you name it. They are evaluating constantly. And I know Jeff. Jeff is an analytical guy. Dabo's that way. You don't let the all shucks fool you about Dabo. He's a smart man and a tough one. And that's what you're seeing in his football teams. Smart play, very physical play, and great execution right now.
You know, you see a quarterback with that kind of arm talent, and you want to say it's God-given, but this guy has to work at it too. And for a freshman, Zach, I haven't seen a quarterback in many years that seems that he doesn't have any bad footwork. I don't know because of his height or whatever, but it seems that when he releases the football, it seems that his feet are in the right position, if you know what I mean.
No, I think you're dead on. One of the things that you have to do with young guys is polish them and develop them. If they're an offensive lineman, a quarterback, or even a pitcher in baseball, we used to call it seasoning. You know, they've got to be seasoned. They've got to do this. They've got to do that. This kid has kind of moved past all that, has that all down, is kind of I don't want to say finished product, but, you know, he is moving at a rapid pace in a very positive direction. And I agree with you. You look at his game and you just start looking for weaknesses, and you just don't see a whole lot there.
Zach Willis, 1st and 10 here on Sports Talk. All right, so I said earlier it's time for South Carolina offensively against an SEC team, an FBS team, to blow it up, just to come out and really have a huge night offensively, and Jake Bentley to have one of those big nights that you can sort of stake your reputation on and say, here, this is what we can do. You know, I look at their games this year, not counting Coastal, but 17 points against Georgia, 10 against Kentucky, 23 against A&M. They did beat Missouri. They did beat Vanderbilt. They scored 37 in both of those. So, I mean, they've had their moments against the lesser teams on their schedule. And Tennessee would fall into that category. The point is, they need to go out there and put 40 or something points on these guys. Kick Tennessee while they're down if you're South Carolina.
You said a mouthful right there. You better get Tennessee. Florida may already be too late. They're coming back fast. Kentucky got them early. But I'll say this, if they would just eliminate the drop passes, they could have had a really, really good night against A&M. And we can make all the excuses in the world. As a coach, from a coach's standpoint, catch the doggone football. Just catch it. As far as Bentley goes, I don't know if he's injured. I don't know what's going on there, but I'm with you 100%. They've got the players in the skill level. Debo, obviously elite player. Bentley's a good quarterback. Don't let anybody kid you there. He was recruited by everybody and offered by everybody. Edwards is a great player. Had some drops lately, but extremely talented, great size. And Shi Smith's a burner. They've got the players to make the plays and to do that, and nothing would make me happier be talking about how they blew Tennessee out this coming Saturday night. I'm a little bit shaky on whether or not it'll happen, but if they'll just keep it simple, know their identity, play blue-collar football on defense, I think their defense is coming along. And offense follow that, we could see some really good stuff on Saturday night.
What's the ceiling for the rest of the season for this team, and what's the floor?
I hate to say this. The floor, obviously, they don't win another game except Chattanooga. I think the ceiling is, you win out. And when you got the players they've got, and I know their talent level.
Wait a minute. Did you say win out?
Out? That means a lot. That means they beat Clemson.
That means you got to go to the Swamp and you got to go to Death Valley and win. I want some of what you've been drinking today.
Well, let me say this. I'm a coach. Football is about Jimmys and Joes, not X's and O's, and it's about execution. Everybody can have an off day. Kentucky went to the Swamp and beat Florida. And if you're Will Muschamp, you've got to believe that as a coach. Now, as an analyst sitting here, you just hope you get bowl eligible. But if we're talking about self-actualization, playing the very best you can, who's got three better receivers in the country than those three? Honestly,
Clemson.
When they're on their game, when they're playing their best. And in Bentley, look what he did against Michigan by himself hurt.
Yeah.
What, Michigan's ranked what right now? I mean, they changed that much up there. Exactly. And they had a better defense, I think, last year than they did this year. And he took them apart in the fourth quarter in a bowl game. He is capable, but those guys have to show up and believe in themselves, believe in their coaches believe in the players, and pull this thing together.
All right. Hey, thank you. Hate to cut you. We up against a hard break. Zach Willis, 1st and 10 here on Sports Talk.
We're back on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, as we get you ready for or recap the week in high school football. Brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. With fave rates from Farm Bureau Insurance, you get all your favorite things like competitive rates, local agents, and great claim service for all your auto, home, and life insurance needs. Get a no-obligation quote today at favrates.com. It's time to talk to David Shelton from the High School Sports Report and the Charleston Post and Courier.
Hey, David, and before we get into some of the games from last Friday, it's been a busy Sunday, Monday of all-star game announcements with the Shrine Bowl yesterday and the Touchstone Energy Bowl rosters announced tonight here on Sports Talk. So first of all, your take on the Shrine Bowl. Did they get it right? Did they, who did they, as always, who did they not take that they should have taken in your opinion?
Well, I'll let you know if I got it right on December 16th.
Yeah.
But, I mean, my feeling on these. There's so much politics and so much other stuff that go on into picking these teams. Their deals cut. Last year there were deals cut for this year. The North-South gets involved with the Shrine Bowl coaches, and they cut deals to make sure they all get good players. So, it is what it is. I thought maybe Somerville quarterback Jonathan Bennett makes the Shrine Bowl. I thought he would have been a good fit. They took Meredith and Bevel, which are two really good players.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one thing you have to be careful of. You don't want to criticize the selection of the ones that were selected because they obviously deserved it. But, when you look at the way the roster is put together, you can always find a player here or there. Maybe the Wando linebacker, Justin Pellick, could have taken one of those two spots that were taken by Boiling Springs linebackers. Two linebackers on one team is very rare. Doesn't happen a whole lot. Not that those kids don't deserve it, but you just kind of think if you're spreading it around, the kid at Wando is as good as anybody in the state. And then he didn't make North-South because they took the kicker and the nose guard, which are two really good players as well. So, but it is what it is. I don't get all worked up over it. I look for good games. I think North Carolina Shrine Bowl team, if it works out and they get to take the players that they, that aren't affected by championships, I think they're going to win the game. They got better talent, but we'll wait and see how that roster gets shaken up, and possibly the South Carolina roster will get shaken up. There could be a few injuries, but the big news down here was that Shrine Bowl took Cooper Dawson from Hanahan, who hasn't played a down of football this season. I mean, it's not there were some people critical of him today that I was talking about. It's like, it's not his fault that he got picked. He didn't politic to get picked.
Right.
He got picked for the game because of his potential. He is going to get cleared, we think, next Wednesday, and we'll play in the playoffs, and then we'll have a couple of weeks to get himself in great shape. He's a good player. Now, if he'd have played all year, he was a shoo-in. But I don't know that there's ever been a player picked for the Shrine Bowl that did not play it down during the regular season. I can't remember it. I've been doing it way too long, but that is an oddity. That was very rare.
Yeah, same thing here. When his name popped up, I'm thinking to myself, well, they must know something. And look, Jackie Hayes is not going to waste a spot on the roster for somebody who he doesn't think can play. Of course, if the doctors don't clear him, they can always go back and pull somebody off the Touchstone Energy Bowl rosters and bring them up.
Absolutely. And one of the coaches is on the Shrine Bowl team is Hanahan defensive coordinator, Steve Blanchard. So, I mean, he may have inside info. I mean, Cooper told me last night he thinks he's getting cleared. He's running full speed. He's doing everything except taking full contact in drills. So he feels like he's going to be cleared. And then, his attitude is, if I got 6 weeks to get in game shape, I can do that, So, and like I said, he's a good player. But I just don't know. And if he doesn't work out, they'll pick somebody else and they'll move on. And he can say he was a Shrine Bowl selection, but that was very weird to see that.
Can he get himself in football playing shape in time for the playoffs? I mean, those are right around the corner. And I know Hanahan won their region. So, I mean, they were able to do well without him. Is he going to be able to get himself in game shape where he can, or is he going to be limited to 10, 15, 20 snaps?
Well, I think he'll be limited early. If he gets cleared next Wednesday, like I said, he's been doing stuff. He feels like he's ready, but it is different game speed. So he may play a little bit in the first round. If they advance, he'll play a little bit more. The longer they go, the more he plays. And if they get beat, say, in the second or third round, then he's got basically a month to work out and get himself in optimal shape. And the good thing is, I guess you could look at it this way, is he hadn't taken a beating all year.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's kind of fresh. He hasn't been going through the rigors of 11, 12, 13 games. So, we'll see what happens. I mean, like I said last night, I told somebody, he may just be, I don't want to say a token pick, but it may end up he gets replaced. Because when I talked to him yesterday, Phil, he was as shocked as anybody. He wasn't thinking in terms of making the Shrine Bowl. I don't think anybody had spoken to him about, hey, you might make the Shrine Bowl. He was as shocked as anybody. But having said that, if he's going to get himself ready to play, he wants to play in the game.
Sure.
Talking, of course, with David Shelton, High School Sports Report. Back to Friday. David, what surprised you? What stood out to you in Friday's action in the Palmetto State?
Well, I think most of the games went about as expected. I think the top teams in each division were winners. I think Abbeville had a little bit of a struggle, and when I say struggle, I mean they didn't beat somebody by 40. Saluda gave them a good battle, which I expected. I think Saluda is a good football team, but South Point continues to prove that they're not going away. A lot of people think this is the year somebody can get them, and they played another close game against Ridgeview and found a way to win. And as we and Phil talked about last Friday, they finding ways to win games, whereas last year they were just blowing people out. So the more they win these close games, the better they're going to be in the playoffs. I still think Greer might be the team in 4A in the upper state, but they have not proven that they can win those big games late in the postseason in several years. So I think it's all shaping up. It's starting to get real fun to watch each Friday night to see these matchups and kind of look ahead to the playoffs and see where teams may fall and what matchups may occur in the first two rounds. Because in a couple of these classifications, 4A in particular, I think you can see some upset.
One team that's been fun to watch all season from afar, just checking their scores, is West Florence. 51-44 over Carolina Forest. First year, Jody Jenrette, who had been at Ainer, he's come in there, and they had a lot of stuff going on in that program in the offseason. He comes in there, and he's made the Knights quite entertaining and a high-scoring offense. And they have a terrific running back who made the Shrine Bowl. What about this team? How far can they advance?
Well, I think they're one of those teams that you kind of, they have a good running back, and they won a playoff game last year with him leading the way when they upset Ashley Ridge. They're a team that could get into the third round, and then you start matching up against some really, really good teams. So you'll see how far they go. But Aleem Ford has been remarkable. He is just a power. He's a smaller height-wise. He's only about 5'8" or 5'9", but man, he runs hard, and he can absolutely scoot. So I think it kind of fit well into Jody's personality of wanting to be a guy that runs the football. And when you take over a program with one of the top backs in the state, that sort of fits it all together. I don't know that their region and their schedule's been really, really tough, but I definitely would not discount them in the first couple of rounds. I think they can make that run into the final, the quarterfinals or semifinals with that running back.
All right, and let's see now. We're just about ready to hit the playoffs. We've got about a week extension here. Ordinarily, we'd be wrapping up regular season this weekend, then getting into the playoffs, right? We're still a couple of weeks away.
Yeah. We still have this is week 10, and then you'll have the week, the November 2nd weekend will be makeup games and such, and then the playoffs. So a couple more weeks, but really playoffs have started. For me, this is where you find out, who the real contenders are.
And some teams trying to play their way into the playoffs. So you're right. So some of those teams on the bubble, they got to win some games here the next couple of weeks. David, thank you as always. Great stuff. We'll talk to you on Friday nights.
Okay, man. Take care.
David Shelton, High School Sports Report, Charleston Post and Courier. Monday Night Football, NFL Talk with the voice of the Panthers coming up.
Newton sends McCaffrey behind him in motion, two-back pistol, and on the flip, coming to the right, Samuel to the 10, accelerates 5, cuts to the left, scores a touchdown.
Well, Mick, I'm embarrassed to admit it. When you fell behind 17-0, I said, bye-bye. I flipped over to the Bears, and, of course, I was rooting against the Bears. I had a rooting interest in that game. Well, I have a rooting interest from I want to see the Panthers do well. But my point is, I gave up on you when you were down 17-0. What is the lesson to be learned from that?
I don't know, because I would have given up on us too had it not been in my contract to remain in the seat and broadcast the game in its entirety. It's when you know how it is. I mean, you sign up to follow a team. How long have you cared about the Green Bay Packers? How did they first get onto your radar screen as a young boy?
First breath.
That's first breath. Okay, so in vitro probably. You were a Packer fan. So you sign up for a wild ride. I mean, Gamecocks, Citadel, PC, Newberry, Wofford, Clemson. I mean, you could all tell a story. It breaks your heart. You fall in love. Your heart gets trampled on and crushed. The officials are taking it from your team. How could they be so despicable? It's just a wild ride. And in the NFL, with teams being so even and the clock running and anything can happen. But Corn, this was amazing yesterday. I mean, this was Cam Newton flaming on and at his Superman best, not making plays necessarily with his feet, but with his arm and with his mind, and it was something to behold.
Was there just a switch that flipped? Or, I mean, was this something you could see brewing, or was almost like Corn described, was there despair down 17-0?
There was probably despair among Panther fans, but the team has said all day today and into the night last night that they stayed together. They believed that they could do it. There was enough time remaining. And the fourth down play, 4th and 10 from the -31. As Newton's getting hit, he finds Torrey Smith, who then gets around the corner, makes a nice move, 34, 35-yard bite. The screen to McCaffrey left side, the touchdown pass to Olsen. I mean, there was a variety of moments, tipping point plays in that game. If there was a switch, then Cam would have flipped it earlier, I think.
Well, you know, the two plays that come to mind with me is when Philadelphia had the football, and Alshon Jeffries is not the fastest guy in the world, but how he got behind that secondary, I don't know. And James Bradbury said, well, okay, no touchdown on my watch, and deliberately interfered so they get another down. And then Luke Kuechly, I don't know whether he was supposed to be back there, but with his instincts, I think Alshon muscles that football away from Bradbury if Luke Kuechly is not there to knock him off the ball when they're in the end zone.
Agreed on all counts. That was a veteran move by Bradbury. And, of course, you'd like for him not to have had to need that situational awareness and that savvy because his job is to stay deep. But Jeffrey ran right by him. I think the secondary thought that Jeffrey was going to run a deep dig, but he broke the route more vertical and got behind him, and there was separation there. That's a touchdown 10 times out of 10 if Bradbury doesn't tackle Jeffrey. So it was a good play on his part, gave the Eagles field position, but a lot better than the alternative.
Visiting with Mick Mixon, voice of the Panthers. Now, Eric Reed is a tremendous addition on the field for the Panthers. Had a good game yesterday, and, of course, a lot of attention to what happened in the pregame with him and Malcolm Jenkins in his comments after the game in the locker room. And, you know, for an organization that's gone through some things, Ray Caruth, what happened with the previous ownership and the investigation and all that, my question to you is, can the organization withstand the volcanic-like nature of Eric Reed and his agenda, aside from football? Is there any way this is going to cause a problem within that locker room at some point in time?
I can't see the future, but so far it's been okay. I think that Eric Reed has a lot of support in the locker room. Not everybody agrees with his views and how he expresses them, but he's been welcomed in as a part of the organization. I had several questions. We asked Coach Rivera-Corn on the postgame show, what did the Panthers do with that energy, Eric Reed, in the pregame? Did they turn it into positive energy, or did the team have to work to keep it from being a distraction? And, Coach addressed it, said he thought that the entire team was too amped up to start that game. But it's interesting because Reed and Jenkins are on different sides of the Players Coalition issue. That's what caused that to boil over.
Well, and the thing you have to be concerned about, too, as a fan, as a coach, as an owner, I mean, you don't want to see that come onto the field of play now. And now it's coming, like you said, now there's factions among players across the league. Some are on this side, some are on that side. And it's spilled over into pregame now. And who's to say it's not going to happen? Let's just say Eric Reed, there's a guy on the offense of the team they're playing. He's on that other side of the argument that he stands for, and he wants to get a clean shot at him and clean his clock, penalty be damned. He might just go out there and level somebody because he's on that other side. You see what I'm saying?
I do, but I'd also have to say, let's just – and I'm all in favor of, wouldn't it be great if every player was Barry Sanders and every player handed the ball to the official after they scored, if no player engendered ill will, if the Vontaze Burficts of the NFL were just legislated out. But this is a violent game. It is played by alpha males who may not want to march in step. They may want to express themselves in some different ways. This train left the station about a quarter of a century ago, and it's not coming back.
Of course, now you have a situation, Mick, where you have a 3-game stretch where you play 2 Sundays in a row, and then the Thursday night game on the road at Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Tampa, and the Steelers. How do you feel about this next 3-game stretch for Carolina?
Oh, my gosh. On the Phil Kornbluth show, I have to take my games 3 at a time.
That was a
but I'm up for it. The Ravens are very good. They'll be a great challenge. They're going to be salty, too, because of the way their game ended against the Saints on Sunday. And the Panthers will have the Bucs. And then on the road for 4 of the next 5. The Saints have a very difficult schedule. They lead the Panthers in the division. And their games left are, I think, all against teams with winning records or teams that are at 500. So I don't know. I like the way it shapes up. I think it's going to be okay.
Only the players take it 1 game at a time, Mick. The broadcasters are allowed to look ahead.
Oh, I look way ahead. I'm already looking ahead to next year. I bet you we go to London next year.
Is that a hint?
A hint for what?
London.
Like, do you have any advanced intel on that, or are you just guessing?
No, but the Panthers are one of 3 teams that haven't been, and we got F.A. Obata, a splashy defensive end who's from there.
Well, I don't like it, Mick, because I've seen where those teams, especially linemen, weren't made to get on a flight and fly to Japan or fly overseas to England. I mean, if something happens to linemen over there with that long flight.
If you do have to go to London, Mick, I do know where you can get your fish and chips. I have a beat on all that for you.
Sure you do. Hey,
stop it.
I've always thought of you as the alpha male there, Mick, okay? You talk about your alpha males playing in the NFL. I've always looked at you as the epitome of the alpha male of sportscasters.
I don't have low T. They asked me if I wanted to be a donor.
Really?
After I got my blood work done.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to help out your fellow mankind?
I'm thinking about it.
Well, you don't need it. I mean, you don't have any kids, right? No wonder you don't have low T. You never had to use it.
You always get me in trouble, Corn. I guess we better hang up for this interview.
See you later. We appreciate
all right,
you.
Pal.
Take care. Well, you don't have kids. You haven't used your T. Your T is all built up.
It's not the only way you can use it.
Okay. So you enjoy being with the Gamecocks tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
And I get to go back to Clemson.
Oh, boy.
Have fun.
Looking forward to that, as always.
Later on this week, we'll be in the Low Country. Tell folks.
Down in Charleston at the Carolina Ale House on Calhoun Street with the Citadel Bulldogs.
Look out.
Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.